Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furr, and I can say I am cloud hired.
Said yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program,
I am cloud hired.
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Cloud Computing Career Q&A session from us here at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Go Cloud Careers. We come on YouTube every week to answer your questions about cloud architect roles, cloud engineer roles, cloud computing careers, cloud architect careers, anything cloud computing related, cloud computing career training, anything, any questions that you might have. We come on here once a week at the very least to answer your questions, whether you want to know how to start a cloud computing career, what a cloud engineer or what a cloud architect is, cloud engineer versus a cloud architect. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. So if you want to know what is a cloud architect and what is cloud computing, don't be shy. Ask us. If you need to know about coding, ask us. So don't be shy. Don't be shy. The team on this call has over 50 years of leadership experience, and we are here to help you. And we want to help you build your best technology career. So first of all, we've got Mike down here at the bottom. He's our founder and CEO. He's been in tech for 25 years, and he's held elite architect positions for over 2 decades as a network architect, an enterprise architect, cloud architect, and even a business architect. Then next to me, we've got Alonzo, our Chief Marketing Officer, an expert on marketing, branding, strategy, and leadership. He has 30 years of marketing experience with major global organizations, and he helps our students build elite brands that make the world come to them. And then, of course, we've got me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here. And I've got nearly 15 years of HR and corporate leadership experience. We are here to help you. I can't emphasize that enough. We're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions. We all hold MBAs. We have the skills from extensive careers to help you not only get hired, but to put you on your path to long-term career success. So don't be shy. Ask us your questions. We're only here for a short period of time, and we're only here today. So make sure to ask your questions. I want to remind everybody that Mike has helped so many people build such amazing careers, and he's built such a reputation that it costs $1,200 per hour to speak with him on a private consult. But you can ask him your questions here for free. So make sure to take advantage of that. You can ask your questions to all of us, especially Mike, for free right now. So don't waste this opportunity. But before we get started, Mike, Alonzo, you got any words before we get in? And then, of course, I've got a couple of things to tell everybody about.
Yeah, a couple things. And I'm really excited about talking about careers. But, today's a very special day. And I think we honor Martin Luther King. I mean, what a leader. Someone that taught us how to be together as one people with love, kindness, and decency. No separation, non-aggression, just pure love. And it's rare to find someone like that throughout history, so we celebrate him today and all the lessons he's taught us about leadership. Genetically, I like to say this, all of us are 99.9% the same. That means Alonzo, who's from Detroit, and me from somewhere between Israel and Greece, guess what? We're 99.9% identical. And then again, Chris, who's from Mississippi and somewhere around there, same thing, 99.9% identical. So we're all family. And, I don't know if you guys have a chance, but Dr. Alveda King speaks constantly. I pretty much read everything and watch every speech she has. She carries on the tradition of love and bringing people together. So I think we celebrate today, and I think it's special. But in honor of that leadership and celebration, he basically made it clear that move forward every single day. Just get one step forward. And that's why we're here. That's why Alonzo's sharing his experience. And he didn't just work in marketing. He's worked in the cloud, too. And me, with my experience, whether it be my old days in internal medicine or my 25 years in tech or my 2 decades of helping people build their best career or earn more, or Chris with his 15 years of HR and leadership experience, we're here to help you move forward. And trust me, you can all do anything. I mean, literally everything. I can give you a bunch of people that are under 25 that have helped get $250,000 and $300,000 jobs. with no background whatsoever, and they're under 25, and you can do it too. I've coached elite leaders, and I've helped people from anywhere and any background be highly successful. And I want you to do it, and that's why we're here. You know, when Chris says it's $1,200 to speak to me, he didn't mention that it's about 18 weeks to get on my calendar. But I try to dedicate, literally speaking, at least 1 hour this week, and I do one webinar free every week because I know what it's like to start out. I know what it was like for me to put $40,000 on personal loans and credit cards to start my networking career. And I don't want you to have to do it. I just want you to build the best career. So ask your questions, let us coach you, and let's talk about Alonzo. Alonzo's like a brother to me. So let's see what he has to say. Chris is too. But we're all fine.
Well, definitely, Mike. Definitely always am happy to be here with you, gentlemen. And it goes a lot when you speak about this special day about Martin Luther King Jr. and the efforts, the advocacy, the representation of understanding that all races, creeds, cultures, doesn't matter about the color of your skin, content of your character is what matters most. And we can see that right here in the thread. We have people from all over the world are focused on one thing, and that's being great cloud professionals. And it speaks volumes to, it doesn't matter where you are, where you're from, what level of technology it is. This community supports all the endeavors that you're looking for, and we're able to make this happen and be right here to answer all your questions so that your future can be realized today. So we are happy to be here and happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, and when we spoke to our internal team this morning, and there was somebody from Nigeria there, someone from Cameroon in there, someone in South Africa there, someone from Vietnam there, a Greek person there, and 2 Americans. I thought that's pretty cool, and that's the way. And someone in Brazil at the same time, and that's what our normal team looks like. So, one people, 99.9% genetically the same.
Yeah, I could talk at great length about today and about Martin Luther King Jr. Being from Mississippi and in particular the Mississippi Delta, the heart of a lot of the activities that came about during his time. That's there's a long legacy of growth and forward progress that I've been able to see firsthand in those areas. But the amazing thing is just seeing how he impacted not just those people in those areas that he was focused on at that time, but everywhere, everyone everywhere. And so it's amazing. We a lot of people my age probably started to learn about Martin Luther King Jr. and people like Medgar Evers and him and others when they got to junior high or high school or something like that. But I had the opportunity to hear and learn about it my entire life because I would walk down the street and there'd be a site where there was a protest or a march or a sit-in or something just right there. And so that I could speak about this all day long, but I love the quote that we shared on LinkedIn earlier today. I'm going to pull it up here, but it's one of my favorites. It might be why it was the quote that we put on LinkedIn. I don't know, but the quote that we shared on LinkedIn from Dr. King today was, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward." And I think that's just applicable in so many ways. Obviously, he was speaking in a different time, different situations, but that's applicable to anyone, anywhere, at any time, in any situation. That's just
absolutely.
It's just a for lack of a better term right now, a mind-blowing quote with endless opportunities for personal growth. So I could talk forever on these men and women, but let's get started. Again, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, everyone. Hopefully you're celebrating it and honoring it in your way. So I want to remind everybody of a few things. First thing I want to remind everybody of is our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, which we will host on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to register at the link in the description and in the chat box and join us live for our presentation on what a cloud architect does, what hiring managers want in a cloud architect, how to deal with the crazy job descriptions that don't make any sense, and what cloud architects actually do. And does your experience or lack thereof matter? So make sure to join us. We'll talk all about that. We'll answer your questions. You can come off mute. You can have all kinds of fun with us. So make sure to register for that in the link in the description. Tyrone just put it in the I think Alonzo and I just saw that comment at the same time.
I get that a lot.
Tyrone put that link in the chat box for the webinar, and make sure to join us, register for that, and we look forward to seeing you there. Next, we have a discount countdown going on. If you watched our intro, you saw it. But right now, you can get up to 60% off of our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which is a world-class award-winning training that encompasses over 500 hours worth of training content, 3 live classes a week from world-class instructors, including Mike, Alonzo, myself, university professors from the University of Tennessee system. We've got industry experts from Fortune 500 companies, tech leaders, enterprise architects, networking experts, all kinds of people that are now a part of this award-winning training. Don't miss this opportunity. Take advantage. Use the link in the chat, in the description and in the chat box, and join us. Every day that you delay your training, which in turn delays your getting hired, is potentially $800 of lost income. So every month that you delay, or every month that you put off doing what's necessary, could be up to $16,000 of lost income every month. So don't delay. Take advantage of this opportunity right now. Don't want to see you delay. We want to see you in class. We want to see you making the best you can of the situation that you have. All right. Lastly, I want to let everybody know, make sure you follow Mike and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. Don't have anything else to say about that one. That's where we put all our stuff. That's where we put all the good stuff, is on LinkedIn. So make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, both Mike and Go Cloud Careers. And of course, while you're here on YouTube, hit the subscription and the notification bell button. All right. Got all that out of the way. Let's get to some of these questions.
Sounds great. And I personally follow Alonzo and Chris because I like to see what they have to say as industry leaders myself.
Kind of quiet sometimes. I'm kind of quiet sometimes.
Yeah, but when you post, it's valuable.
Let me see. I want to take this question first myself, and then I'd like to go and Is that clockwise? Yeah, that's clockwise. Alonzo and then Mike.
Okay, we'll do round robin. Yeah.
Juan David Ortez says, "Hi. In programming, there is imposter syndrome. No, in everything, there's imposter syndrome.
Everything.
Which I think happens because of how common it is to learn every tech. That means cloud architects don't suffer that because how specialized they are." So, I actually wrote I wrote about imposter syndrome a while back. Imposter syndrome is basically, so from my perspective and what I've seen and seen other people experience that I work with, imposter syndrome is not industry specific. It's not technology specific, not career specific. It can happen to anyone, anywhere, in any situation when they have unrealistic expectations of themselves. So the most common form of imposter syndrome is somebody that's new to a field or to a technology or to something that they're trying to learn. They're learning it, but they don't know if they've got it. And the reason they feel like they don't know if they got it is because they're comparing themselves to other people out there. Even if it's the same people, even let's say we're in a cohort or a boot camp, and you're trying to compare yourself to others in the boot camp, it's not a fair comparison because it's not everybody entered that with the same degree of knowledge, the same degree of of capability and abilities already attained. So the imposter syndrome that I see the most, and that I see most people have difficulty with, is that they expect themselves to be somewhere they're not supposed to be, or they haven't had the opportunity to verify their competency. Those two things. The more opportunities you have to verify your competency, the more comfortable you'll become. That's my 2 cents on imposter syndrome. I could go on and on and on and on, but in a nutshell, it really does boil down to you believing in yourself. If you can elaborate and explain to someone something that you've been trying to learn, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. You know what you're doing. That's my 2 cents on imposter syndrome. I'd like to hear Alonzo and then Mike's. Again, this is everybody's got a little bit different version of imposter syndrome. But trust me, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that imposter syndrome comes from the proverbial taking the cake out of the oven before it's ready. If you're not ready to execute your career or your job and put yourself out there, and you don't feel like, okay, well, I don't feel so good about it. Listen to your intuition. Listen to what your mind is telling you, is that there's something that's deficient in your execution that is prompting you to feel unsure about yourself. And from a branding perspective, either we are encouraging or enhancing or degrading our brand in what we think, in what we say, and how we act. So from that manifestation of how you're thinking about yourself, that will come across in the job interview, will come across when you're meeting and discussing about something that you feel you want to move forward in. And it may not come across as you being confident and ultimately coming across as being an imposter. So that syndrome is something that can manifest, but it also can end in how you execute your everyday efforts to become better, proficient, competent, and being stronger in that field, so that any given time where you're able to share, whether it be a written white paper document enhancing or showcasing your abilities, a conversation, discussion, or presentation, you're going to be able to enhance your feelings of competency. And the more that feeling of competency goes up, the imposter syndrome will go down. So just execute every day, Juan, about what you want to do and keep practicing, studying, conversing about it, and you'll get there, and that imposter syndrome will decrease. What about you, Mike?
Before Mike, I want to clarify. When I said expectations, I'm saying we need to you should have realistic expectations of where you should be. Yeah. So like a weekend, you should not be, you shouldn't have everything. So you shouldn't feel like you should have everything. 4 months in, you shouldn't have everything. So you shouldn't feel like you have everything. These 16, 20, 24-week boot camps, you're not going to know everything. So don't feel like you have to know everything. That's what I would. Alonzo made me think about my need to clarify on that point. So the realistic expectations is ties into what Alonzo was talking about. Are you ready? And are you ready for the level that you should be? That's the key. So sorry, Mike, go.
And I'm going to give you the healthy version of imposter syndrome versus the pathological or the unhealthy. But first one, I'm going to address one point. Anybody that tries to learn every tech like you described will always be horrible at everything. You cannot define your focus. You can't be an Olympic swimmer, an Olympic gymnast, and an Olympic marathon runner in the same person. When you try, you're just going to fall apart and be bad at everything. And I'll tell you, the secret to success is to find your ticket, what you like most, and then go focus on it. Now, once we get past that, let's talk about imposter syndrome. And yes, I've had it too earlier in my career. Imposter syndrome is your subconscious knowing you're not good enough. For example, when I was a Cisco certified internet expert, which I did in 6 months, and the next thing I realized, I was the lead architect for the world's largest market maker in Wall Street. I've got 6 months networking experience, and sure, I've got a CCIE. And I had all kinds of imposter syndrome, and for good reason. I knew in my heart I wasn't good enough. I had all the credentials and I was good, but I wasn't good enough. I was good enough with my fancy interview tactics to get the lead architect role, which was close to a $200,000 tech role in, literally speaking, 1999, early 2000. But I knew I wasn't good enough, so I had imposter syndrome. So what did I do about it, Juan? I went home and I read about 500 to 1,000 pages a day, every day for 6 months. And then I practiced as much as I could. And after about 6 months and about 60,000 pages of reading, guess what? I didn't have imposter syndrome anymore because I knew I was good enough. I had proved it to myself. I had proved it to the chief information officer. I had been speaking at some conferences, and I knew I was good enough. And that's when it went away. Now, Juan, let's talk about the pathological imposter syndrome, which actually is real, and it affects many people. I can show you people that have 20 years experience in one area and are literally the best in the world. And every time they get up on stage that I've spoken to, they're like, Mike, am I good enough? Can I really talk about this? And I'm like, wait, you taught me. And I've been teaching thousands of others. You've done this for Cisco. You've done this for this world's largest internet service provider. You've helped all these banks. Not only are you good enough, you've changed lives of thousands of people. Yes, you're good enough. You're beyond good enough. Now go out there and do this. And I taught them some skills from cognitive behavioral therapy to get over it. So the point is if you know your knowledge isn't good enough, yes, you have imposter syndrome, but that's good. And you know why it's good, Juan? Because you're going to double check yourself and you're going to triple check yourself so you don't make mistakes. And you're going to fight hard to be better until the imposter syndrome goes away. Same thing happened to me in martial arts. I did martial arts for 20 years. And I'd gone to Israel to study Krav Maga, and I trained all over in the U.S. And I went there, and I was terrified. 20 years of martial arts background, and I still had imposter syndrome. And everybody said, Mike, what are you worried about? I said, these Israelis invented Krav Maga. Now I'm going to go train with them. I'm terrified. Well, I learned real fast why I had imposter syndrome. By the time I was done training with the Israelis, I was a very different martial artist. I was called grossly injured, but that's neither here nor there. But I didn't have imposter syndrome anymore. So the key is it normal? If you're new in your career or you try to learn everything, yes, it is totally normal. Use it as a tool to fight to be the best you can be. If you're great and you're truly great and you have it, maybe get some psychological help, because then it's a psychological issue, and we all need help with certain things in different points in my life. But if you're going straight into cloud architecture and your background's programming, expect to have imposter syndrome, even with the best training, for a year or two, because it's normal, because your subconscious knows there's still so much to learn. And guess what, Juan? I've been in the architecture field for 25 years, and I still learn every day. Every day I learn something. And that's with me only focusing on architecture. Now, I don't do DevOps, I don't do coding, I don't do SysOps or maintenance. That's just focusing on architecture, and I still learn every day. And I'm excited to learn every single day because I love architecture.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's see our next question. Saeed Bell says, I am antisocial person. I hate meeting and communicating, but I am a good cloud engineer. Can I still develop the skills to become an architect?
I'm going to address this because, Saeed Bell, if you don't learn some of the architect skills, I'm going to pretty much guarantee that within 5 to 10 years, you will be out of a job, and I'm going to tell you why. First, we can all learn these skills. I was the shyest person you ever met. You wouldn't even believe how shy I used to be. One day we had one of the VPs over at NVIDIA come on, and he literally said, Mike's an introvert. You know, when I knew Mike, I first met Mike, and there'd be a party, he'd be hiding in the corner, texting his wife. Well, in those days it was email, but that was either case. But you know, that was them, or calling my wife. And he's like, now look at Mike. So the answer is yes, you can. Now, two, Saeed, I got to tell you some really serious factors. You must, if you want a real career, get out of just hands-on engineering. Hands-on engineering is dead. In fact, we stopped selling our engineering training, even though it was highly profitable, because hands-on engineering is dying, and it's dying because of the following things. Right after the pandemic, it became obvious that it doesn't matter where in the world you're actually living. Anyone could work anywhere, anytime, and we could all be glued together with fancy unified communications in the form of WebEx or Zoom. Now, because of that, companies now have the decision. Do I hire someone in California for $200,000 a year, or do I pay them $56,000 in India? Now, there's such a shortage of capable people in this world that we have to sponsor visas to bring people in from other parts of the world. There's only 325 million people in the US, approximately. There's almost 8 billion people in the world. So what's going to happen is 100,000 US dollars is the equivalent to $28,000 in India by standard of living. Which is a company going to do? Hire one engineer at $200,000 a year in the US or 4 people in India? They're going to hire 4 people in India. So it's called arbitrage, and businesses are not going to be hiring US engineers in the US, UK, or Canada. Now say ChatGPT changes everything. No, it's a disruptive technology, and it's just the beginning. ChatGPT can do DevOps things. It can code. It can write a Terraform script to deploy all your things in the cloud. Now, it's just the beginning. Now, Microsoft just invested $10 billion in OpenAI, the people that make ChatGPT. And what do you think that $10 billion is going to do in about 5 to 10 years? All the engineering that people do right now. Now, that's just that, with just $10 billion. But I want you to understand this. ASICs are fully programmable. ASICs are application-specific integrated circuits that can literally do things fast. Google right now is developing ASICs that for like almost no power by compared to GPUs, they can do things 3 times faster. And that's right now. NVIDIA's GPUs and AMD's GPUs are upwards of 80% faster with each generation. So figure in about 5 years, we're going to have 10x performance for our machine learning applications. Now, 10x plus $10 billion, I mean, people that are coding and people that are configuring, they're gone. There's no need for them anymore. You're going to need architects, and they're the people that can go to the business people, figure out what those business problems are, and then think about what tech's cool. This AI can do this, and guess what? This AI can replace these 50 people that are annoying. Good, I don't have to pay these 50 salaries anymore, and I don't have to pay for managers to manage them. Now, this department over here is challenging. Oh, look what AI can do. I'm going to hire $3 million architects, and guess what? 1,000 of these engineers that I was paying $150 for are gone. So there's that. So I don't think you have a choice, Saeed Bill. If you want a technology career, you've got 2 options. Either become an architect or stay an engineer, and this is fine, but learn how to communicate, learn how to sell, learn how to present like an executive, learn how to lead large numbers of people, develop your CXO relevancy and executive presence, the same skills architects need. And that's what you become then. You become something called the distinguished engineer. And guess what? That's a $300,000 position just like an architect is. So that's my recommendation is please don't expect to be working in hands-on tech 5 to 10 years from now. No matter what you do, either stay on the tech side like the engineer or focus on the business side like an architect, but don't just worry about getting a bunch of certifications and being hands-on tech. Those careers are dying. I've been in the tech futures for a couple of decades now, and I just don't see them here. And I've been advising people to get out of programming and out of these hands-on things for a while.
All right, next question from Mark says, from a study perspective, I'm going to address this one, Mike. You talked too long. From a study perspective, would it be best to focus on a single cloud provider and go deep with it, or focus across, say, Azure, AWS, and GCP and be slightly broader? Neither of those is the correct option. The correct option is option number 3, door letter C, whatever you want to call it. Learn the cloud. The cloud is a network and a data center and everything that comes with it. So learn the cloud. If you learn the cloud, then you can do Azure, AWS, GCP, and then all the ones you didn't even mention. The same amount of time that it would take you to learn and become familiar with Azure is the same amount of time that it would take you to learn the cloud. Now, if all you did was learn Azure, then you got to do it all over again for AWS. Then you got to do it all over again for GCP. So just learn the cloud, learn the data center and network technologies of the cloud, and then you can familiarize yourself with Azure, AWS, GCP, whatever provider you need to familiarize yourself with. If you learn the cloud, it's the same as learning to drive. You learn to drive, you don't learn to drive a Toyota or learn to drive a Mercedes or learn just like you. I'm not recommending that you learn to do Azure or to do AWS. You learn the cloud like you learn to drive or like you learn to ride a bike or like you learn to write with a pen. Doesn't matter what pen you use, unless it's a feather pen with an ink thing. But if it's a ballpoint pen, you learn to write with a ballpoint pen. If it's a pencil that you have to sharpen, you learn to write with a pencil that you have to sharpen. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter whose pencil it is. If it's a pen, it doesn't matter whose pen it is. You know how to write with it. If it's a computer, for the most parts, my Asus computer is the same as the one that Mike built and is running his systems with, because guess what? They all run Windows 11 or Windows 10. I learned how to use Windows. So learn the cloud, learn the network and the data center, and then you can apply that to the vendors.
And there's one thing we have to add to that, Mark. If you only learn AWS or Azure or Google, you'll never have any good jobs ever, for the following reasons. If you don't understand how the underlying technology works, you'll never know how to take it from the data center to the cloud provider, because you can't do what you don't understand. So if I just taught you how to shop at Publix supermarkets, for example, and get the things off the Publix menu, you can't be a chef, because you won't know how the ingredients combine together. And an architect is like a chef. So if you don't learn the underlying tech, which they don't teach you in any certification, consider a lifetime of unemployment if you're interested in architecture. Now, the second thing is, if you don't understand it works and you're an engineer, how do you performance tune it? You still can't do it. So you need to learn the underlying tech to be able to do any job. And they don't teach that in the certification. So here's the thing. The second reason is, Mark, 81% of customers use more than one cloud. And with the government's $9 billion cloud architecture, guess what? Everybody's multi-cloud. And the rest of the customers say they will be. So if you learn the cloud, you'll be good. Like Chris said, imagine if you just learned how to drive a Honda, and then you had to rent a Toyota because you were traveling and you couldn't drive it. And you'd have to go to school for that. That's ridiculous. Learn the car. Don't learn any of these stupid marketing names, like learn what an accelerator is, learn what a brake is. You know object storage. Guess what? If it's Microsoft Blog, Dell EMC's object storage in Nutanix, Alibaba, Google's cloud storage, Microsoft Blog, or AWS S3, guess what? It's still the same. So learn the tech, learn the cloud, and then work anywhere. But if you only learn how to shop at one store, and that's all a cloud provider is, and your customer says, hey, I need a firewall, and you're like, I can use AWS WAF. No enterprise customer is going to use that. What's going to happen when you need to use Palo Alto or Fortinet or Cisco? You're in trouble. So learn the cloud, because there is no such thing as just AWS or just Google. Learn the cloud. It's like when you get a car performance tune. You think it all comes from Honda or Mercedes, or do you think they get parts from everybody? That's what we deal with. So, Mark, learn the cloud.
From ICA, question. I have all the certifications such as AWS Solutions, Architect Associate, and Professional, Linux and CISSP. What's the minimum salary should I ask for if I have no experience, but I build a cloud using your training? IC, that's a good question. Let's unpack this. The minimum salary, and it's about no experience, but you built a cloud using our training. Let's remove the experience. Let's focus on the competency. If you're able to walk through with your hiring manager how you built that cloud, what the steps were, how you were able to break down in our 3 cardinal questions, what is the tech, what does it do, and when would you use it? And you're able to tell that story in an effective, meaningful, and creative way that draws the hiring manager in, you're going to be able to underscore your competency. You're going to be able to talk about your experience, because since you've already built your own cloud, you're going to be in a very great position to be able to support that understanding. But you have lots of other skills that you need to focus on in the course. So there's going to be far more facets to this with our training. But ultimately, after you're done, after you're able to effectively respond to any questions that we have about your competency, and you're able to fulfill those answers and even provide information on answers before we even ask, on questions before we even ask them, you're going to be in a very lucrative position to be able to command a very great salary. So it's hard to say there's no flat rate of what you could command, but it will definitely be in a six-figure range. What about you, Mike?
And here's what I want to make this clear, because there's a lot of things that are missing from this question. And the skills that get you paid have absolutely zero to do with your certifications. I'm going to throw all these certifications out the window because as a hiring manager, I don't care. And of all the hiring managers I ask, they don't care either. There's no impact on your salary. Now, Alonzo, I want you to ask me two questions. Now, I want you to ask me how to secure a web application. And I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you the low pay. Well, first, I'm going to give you the low paid answer, and then I'm going to give you the high paid answer. And I'm going to show you the difference right now. For one answer, I'll give you a $300,000 architect answer. And for another one, I'll give you a $100,000 architect answer, or somebody that doesn't get hired in the first place.
Right. Mike, could you share with me how you would build a solution for a software application, please?
You mean how to secure a system?
Secure, yeah, secure.
How do I secure a web application? Okay, because I'm not a software architect.
Right.
Alonzo, here's what we can do. The cloud's got all these great security features and functions. So, we can put AWS WAF on something, and then we can use shields that'll give us some firewall and some anti-DDoS. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to lock down our systems by using an access control list or a network access control list to protect the subnet. We'll put something on the security. We'll put a security group to protect the web servers or the load balancer, and then we'll harden our servers. I see. If you get past hiring, that's a $95,000 to $105,000 answer. Now, Alonzo, ask me the same question. How would I secure a web application?
Mike, how would you secure a web application?
Alonzo, first tell me the criticality of this web application. How critical is it for you?
Extremely.
How many billions of dollars of revenue goes through this web application per year?
We're looking at 3.5 annual billion.
Okay, 3.5 annual billion.
Yeah.
How many customers do you have in your database?
Oh, what continent?
Okay, total. Because I want to know what your risk of security exposure is.
Risk of security for our global client base, we're looking at 1.5 million customers.
Okay, 1.5 million. So Alonzo, I want to make this clear to you. The average cost of a security breach is $150 per person. So if we take $150 times 1.5 million people, that's your security exposure. Now, let's say that the average organization gets hacked every number of years. That's what you're facing risk-wise every year. So you need really robust security. So in your situation, we can't be using cloud native features. We're going to have to get really serious. And what we're going to need is say, to use a network load balancer and 2 sets of next generation firewalls. Pick your favorite vendor. What'll happen is we have to figure out your business requirements, and we can determine that. But it'll likely be the Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint variety. Now, we're also recommend you do a second series of firewalls because all technology fails. So another set of network load balancers and another one of those firewalls. From there, even though these firewalls have intrusion detection, intrusion prevention capabilities, we probably should have another series of network load balancers and intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. And after that, we're going to use some network access control lists. And after that, we'll use some security groups. Now on our systems themselves, that's not even close to enough. We'll have some host-based firewalls, some anti-malware protection. We'll disable unnecessary services. We'll encrypt your drives. And Alonzo, I could keep going on, but we're not going to. So ACT, as you see, I showed some business acumen there. I showed some real communication skills, some executive presence or gravitas. I didn't just get into the tech. So ICT, statistically speaking, the people with business acumen, according to salary.com, earn on average of $549,000 a year. Now, when we deal with the principal architect at Google, we're dealing with $508,000 a year. At Microsoft, it's about $380,000 a year. At AWS, it's $378,000 a year. What determines which kind of architect salary you get? Your business acumen, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence. As my manager told me 20 years ago, the difference between a $150,000 architect and a $300,000 architect has nothing to do with your certifications. It has nothing to do with your tech knowledge. It's how do you communicate that tech, pretend tech, and influence others to adopt the tech. So I see, our average salaries are between 180 and 287, although I have to change that because we recently had a $300,000 job offer in Australia right out of our program with someone that never worked as an architect before. So, there's that. But it has nothing to do with your certifications. Consider them to be irrelevant when it comes to salary. They're nice certifications, although Linux certification I'd probably remove if you want to be an architect, because that's going to make you look more like a techie engineer than it actually would be as an architect who designs, presents, and sells. The CISSP and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is good. I'd also remove the associate, because you don't want to have too many associates on your certifications. You want the big stuff. Like if someone that's a physician that was a nurse before puts out MD, they don't put out RN/MD, they put down the big one. But typically between 120 and 300 is what we're seeing with our graduates.
All right. So our next question is from Varun. In most of your podcasts, you guys mentioned we will get to build a cloud. Do you mean you will be provisioning a setup to build up data center with concepts we learned during the course?
Varun, what I mean by building a cloud is you're going to VPN into our data center and build it. If you wanted to build a data center, what we'd have to do is charge at least $300,000 to $500,000 per student, minimum. And we'd have to fly you in, and we'd literally have to give you servers, load balancers. You'd have to be working with air conditioners. You'd have to be working with power transformers and power companies and systems like that. We give you a virtual environment to build your own cloud on our systems and data. So you'll come into our servers, real VMware servers, and you'll build clouds directly on that. But we take care of the networking for you and the power and the cooling and all those other things. And believe me, we've got the electric bill to prove it, because I have a cloud sitting in my house. And every time my wife looks at my $1,000 a month electric bill, she says to me, "How and why do we have this?" I said, "Because we got a cloud running in our house."
All right, so the next one,
CC Lemon.
Yeah, I think we need to approach this one. There's a difference between what we're talking about here and what we're talking about in your question. So CC Lemon says, I know you don't recommend learning 5G, but there are a lot of telecoms that are focused on 5G like Ericsson. Would that type of environment be suitable for learning networks like routers and switches?
CC Lemon?
We're not talking telecom jobs here.
Yes.
Telecom and 5G and all that stuff makes sense because that's telecommunications.
Right.
So that's separate from what we're talking about with cloud computing
and networking.
And networking. Obviously, some of the same technologies.
Let me just take it here since let me take this. So look, 5G is good if you want to work for Verizon Wireless or AT&T Wireless and set up their wireless. All major networking is done via wires, via fiber optic connections. So the only thing that 5G is going to be used for is a little bit of edge computing. Now, when you learn wireless, that's a layer 1 and a layer 2 technology. Cloud architects and network architects work on layer 3 technologies for the most part. And even network architects aren't wasting their time learning 5G because they don't want to work for a wireless company. They want to do routing and switching. So if you want a job working for a wireless company, setting up wireless things in a layer 1 or layer 2 capacity, I recommend learning 5G. If you want to be a network engineer, don't learn 5G. You want to be a network architect, don't learn 5G. You want to be a cloud engineer, don't waste your time on 5G. If you want to be a cloud architect, don't waste your time on 5G. But if you want to work for a wireless organization like Ericsson or Nokia, learn 5G. Only if you want to work in the wireless department, though. Because the network architects that I work with don't know 5G there because they're busy focusing on routing and switching. And they all have, so it depends on which division you want to be at one of these companies. If you want to work for AT&T, by the way, as a network architect, you're not going to be doing 5G. You're going to be doing the routing and switching and BGP and intermediate systems and NPLS and VPLS tunnels and BGP VPNs and all those other cool things, but you're not going to be dealing with 5G. So CC Lemon, I recommend 5G for people that want to be telco engineers. Working for a wireless company, I do. But to us, doesn't matter. Me as a network architect, if you give me fiber, optic, or fiber, or 5G, but I wouldn't put anything that's really critical in 5G because wireless is a shared medium, which makes it a lot dependable.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this from a someone that doesn't know anything perspective because that's me. I read a CCNA book, and they cover these technologies, or a CCNP book and they cover these technologies, it's because is it fair to say that because in the grand scheme of everything, that's where 5G fits, is a networking thing? In
an entire CCNP, they might have 55 pages on it, because 99% of network engineers won't ever touch that in their life. And in a CCI curriculum, an expert curriculum, it won't be there at all. Unless you want to do some kind of a service provider thing specifically geared towards that, and then it'll be there, but it will not be there. Now, in some intro-level books, they actually put a lot of stuff, because the intro-level books are really not designed to teach you depth. They're just trying to expose you to a little bit of everything, just so you get a feel for what things are. Whereas once you get into professional and experts, they start doing it. So you might see it in a CCNA book, but at the elite level, it's not part of what we talk about.
Right. Okay. Right. Let's see.
Gwendolyn Fonken. I am in my final year of university. Congratulations. I just completed the Solution Architect Associate certificate. What should my path be like if I want a career as a solution architect?
I know what she's asking here.
Okay.
And this is based upon the worst misconceptions out there. There are people that tell people they should be a cloud admin, then a cloud engineer, and then an architect. Now, if you want to be a cloud solutions architect, that should be your first job. Like Daniel Bosu, for example, who didn't even graduate high school, by the way, and his first job was a solution architect at JP Morgan Chase. Or Jermaine, who was a landscaper that got hired by a couple amazing people, amazing organizations, as a solution architect upon graduation from our program. Or Jennifer, who was a mental health tech, whose first job was a solution architect with JP Morgan Bank, Chase Bank. Or Vladimir, who was a 24-year-old young man whose first job was a solution architect, and he even negotiated an additional $20,000 over the base pay with the negotiation skills we taught him. Or Coyote from Cameroon, who got his first job at AWS as a solution architect. Or Romanik Ivan Tamo, also Cameroonian, who got his first job as a solution architect with AWS. So your career path should be a solution architect. Now, how you train for that is another story. And if you want to know how to train for that, that's that. But my recommendation is you train for the job you want and then get the job you want. Doctors don't become medical assistants for a couple of years, and then nurses for a couple of years, and then pharmacists for a couple of years. They become doctors. Lawyers don't go to medical school in the way, and airplane pilots don't train to be flight attendants and airplane mechanics. They try to be pilots. So yes, you can get a solution architect job as your first job. We've gotten, I can't even count how many people at this point it's happened to, but that would be my thing. But the thing is you need the right training, and the certifications will not prepare you for these things. Now, if you want to join us on Thursday for the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, I'll tell you everything you need to learn. And you can ask us questions live and come on screen. But if you learn the network and the data center, that's 50% of it. And the remaining 50% of things are like communication, executive presence, presentation skills, leadership skills, building a business case, learning how to respond to an RFI, RFP, RFQ. But your first job can be a solution architect job, and it shouldn't be anything other than that if that's what you desire. And if you're more curious about how to get there, let us know, and we'll happily answer that.
All right. Okay, so Sterling says, I'm an IT engineer. I want to go to cloud engineer. Where should I start?
Well, I don't know what an IT engineer is, because IT can be anything. So if you can tell us what you actually do in your job, exactly, and explicitly, what are you doing? Are you doing operations? Are you doing break fix? Are you working on Windows with so what? Are you working on routers and switches? Are you configuring them? Are you designing them? Are you working on unified communications or wireless or something? If you can let us know what you do, Then we can tell you what the skills are that you need and the gaps. Without that, I'd have to start you from scratch, which we may have to do anyway, but we can't do that until we know where you're coming from.
All right. I'm smiling because of the next question. So the next question is from Prince. Is there an internship position open at Go Cloud Careers? I feel I'd learn better with hands-on experience. If it's available, how do I apply? So I'm going to bring up the hands-on experience thing. If we're talking about hands-on of designing solutions, let's answer that question. Mike, do we do any designing solutions in our program?
So Prince, in our program, we design architectures every week. And there's architectures you do on your own, and there are still technical hands-on skills. But hands-on experience, Prince, for an architect is hands-on experience practicing to design an architecture, to present the architecture, and sell the architecture. Now, Prince, we have to be very explicit with engineering experience versus architecture experience, and all of our students get an internship. Engineering experience will not help you learn architecture. I'm going to say this again. Engineering experience will not help you learn architecture. And many people think that architecture hands-on experience is configuring things. It is not. Architecture experience is designing. So hands-on for an architect is designing, presenting, and selling. And we do a tremendous amount of that with our students. Now, here's why we say it's so important. So what an architect does is design something. They design a hotel. They design an airport. They design a shopping mall. Now, what's taught in certifications is configuration. Now, configuration is the equivalent of giving a carpenter a hammer, a screwdriver, and a nail and say, hammer this nail in. Here's how to use this saw. Here's how to use what do they call it, a pliers or a wrench or some tool like that? I don't know. I'm an architect. I've never touched a tool in my life. But what happens is if you teach a construction worker how to do construction, they still don't know how to design a shopping mall or a hotel because it's hands-on experience from somebody else's career. And if I train you to be a lawyer, it doesn't make you an airplane pilot. So all of our students do an internship, and all of them get tremendous amounts of hands-on experience as architects. And they have a portfolio of architectures they can talk about and show people. And our students are amazing and competent in absolutely every single way. That's why Chris and I have another conversation with another employer that says, Mike, I keep hiring your people and I need more of them. Can we just hire them and can you just call us and tell us when we've got people that are ready? And I have employers doing that with us all the time because they love us and love our students. But our hands-on experience is architecture experience because architecture experience makes you a better architect.
Okay. Okay, and I'd like to let anyone know if you're trying to give us a call, we will return your call when we are off of the air here. So if you are calling, we will return your call. You can leave a voicemail. Oh, they heard me. They hung up. we will return your call.
My team will give everybody a call back. We care deeply about your success.
We are a boutique operation.
Yeah.
We are here for you right here, right now. And as soon as we are off, we will take your call.
And we've got a lot of our team working on behind the scenes and a lot of other people grading homework and things.
All right. So our next question. I have sales experience in the multifamily industry and real estate. I don't have any certifications, but I want to be a cloud architect. How can I make it make sense to an employer to hire me? Ooh, we have entire lessons on that.
We have entire lessons, and I'm going to turn it over to Alonzo in a minute because that's one of the reasons he's on our team. So here's the thing. I had no experience other than the ability to practice medicine, and the first job I got was a senior engineer role. And they had network engineers 1 through 4, and I was a 4, and the rest of the team was a 1 or 2 with no background. Your certifications are irrelevant. Delroy Batt had no certifications. Now, we'd like you to get them and recommend them. He would get people. Bob Welch, who may be on this call, had 20 people reach out to him a day to hire him. One of my brand new students just put Go Cloud Careers on her resume. And she's sending me a message, Mike, I've only been in your program for a couple days. People are already reaching out to me. What do I do? And I say, don't interview until you're ready. So Jay Hill, there's a reason I wrote 70 magazine articles last year. And we're published in every magazine from DevOps Magazine to Information Week to Investors Business Daily. Because we focused on building a major brand for ourselves and our students so the world comes to us. We also have a huge reputation. And why do you think I have someone that's worked on the cloud with 30 years marketing experience as a chief marketing officer? Because he knows about building a brand. And we teach our students how to build such a brand that employers literally come to them. Almost none of my students have ever even applied for a job, and they don't have to because the world comes to them. Now, Romanik Ivan Tamba, who was working as a waiter, did apply to lots of jobs, and he did it in a very creative way. But, many of our students don't. Delroy Batt never applied for a job, and he's got no certifications. He went on 3 interviews with 3 companies, and he turned down 2 of the 3, and he took CDW because he loves them. Every day he has people reaching out to him, and he doesn't even have a bachelor's degree. He's got an associate degree. Daniel Bosa didn't graduate high school, and he's working at JP Morgan Chase, so it's about branding. So how important is a brand, Alonzo, for an organization or a person when it comes to lacking experience for or even trying to build a company up?
Your brand is everything. Remember, your brand speaks for you when you cannot do it yourself. A brand can be a business card. It's your resume. It's a website. It's anything you're associated with, which is one of the reasons why when we ask you to come here, first thing we want to do, when we pull up your name on Google, Safari, what comes up? Something doesn't need to be on there. There's something that's misrepresenting you or something you may have said out of emotions, political positioning, or anything else. Get rid of it. So it's all about how you're able to present yourself to the hiring manager. And you do so with the resume that gets you the opportunity to showcase your competency. Once you cross that bridge and you get there, that's when what we teach you here, your competency, your CXO relevancy, your communication skills, your presentation skills, everything that we hone and shine within you is going to come out for that hiring manager, where they are going to be hard pressed to let you go out of the door without providing an offer letter for you.
Exactly. And just a little bit, but we can't go into depth. One of the things a cloud architect does is ask a customer, what are your goals? What are your needs? What are your business requirements? And that drives everything. I suspect when you're dealing with a real estate investor that's wanting to know what is the cap rate of this property, for example, and what are the taxes related on this property? What are the vacancy rates on this property? And they're trying to ask questions to determine if it's a good investment or a bad investment. You're already doing a lot of these things. It's just a matter of showing them that your past life is the same as your new life. We can't get into it on this call. And that's why we have branding experts on a lot of training on this. But that's why we have 3 MBAs, 2 PhD business school professors, a person with a master's degree in economics, a person with a master's degree in law, a VP over at NVIDIA that's part of our staff, and many, many other people that go into helping our students build the brand and know exactly how to be the best in the world. But it's about that. It's about showing how your past experience. The same way I got my first tech job, by showing people that my experience in internal medicine was the same as network engineering.
All right. Well, here we go.
Oh boy. Hey, Mike, you heard?
Hey! Okay. Bingo, man, I'm so happy for you.
Very good.
I helped you get a job. I'm so happy. Look, $80,000 is great.
Yeah.
It's great. And now you have a job. You can afford to take my class, and we'll double that. And yes, I'd be so honored to work with you, Dingleman. Congratulations. Every time I see somebody get hired, it really affects me because
outstanding.
I grew up really poor, and I worked 2+ jobs just to graduate high school. So Dingleman, I'm so happy for you. I'm literally so happy. Tyrone, who's also part of my team, who's over there in South Africa, is happy. Congratulations. I'm so happy you listened to the advice we gave you. Took by, and I remember speaking to you constantly. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. You know, I didn't have a cloud hired yet today, and I was waiting for something to happen, and I wish I could type in the chat box, but I don't even have access to it where I'm at in my studio. But congratulations. I'm so happy.
Very good. Well done.
Congratulations. And we can't wait to see you in the program. But
Can't wait.
So excited for you. I know that's something that you probably worked very hard for.
Sure.
And it's very exciting to see that you were able to achieve that. So thank you for coming on here and sharing that with us, Diggleman.
Thank you,
That's so exciting. So exciting. Ah, man.
That's Reggie Bonifant, an NFL player, one of our students, a truly amazing guy who's also there. Congratulations as being part of the team player.
Well
I didn't mean
done.
to cut Chris off, but you can tell my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Every hired person makes me super, super happy.
All right. So let me get back in order here. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Sir, is it possible for one to get a cloud engineer job via GCP without having obtained the certificate?
Definitely. We got lots of people that are getting hired as architects.
Yeah, the engineer. I think the important thing is the competency and the skills. The certification is just a validation of the skills and the competency that you have or should have. Should. But so you can get an engineer or an architect job for that matter without a certificate, as long as you've got the competency and the skills and can communicate the required competency to the interviewer. A certificate is just a piece of paper at the end of the day.
And, 20 years ago, certificates meant a lot. They really did. But here's what happened in the last 20 years. I can get you the answer to key to that Google exam within 15 minutes. I could point you to any 1-4 websites, which 90% of certification seekers use. And anybody that's got more than 3 or 4 certifications, for the most part, cheated. And that makes them even less desirable. So because you can go and buy a pass guarantee, now you know what else you can get? You can also pay for somebody to take your certification exam. And they've got a whole system worked out. And I get people send it to me every single day. In fact, I don't even know if Chris has the thing on his screen. He may not. Recently, someone that has an AWS Certified Solution Architect course on Udemy asked me to teach him cloud computing. Chris will share that graphic with you someday soon if he doesn't have it at easy access, because it doesn't immediately mail right now. I always put him on the spot like this. But we'll share that very soon. But the point is, anybody can get certified and know absolutely zero. Now, finding someone that's truly competent and knowledgeable is rare. So we generally recommend a professional certificate because it'll help you get the interview. But when it comes to getting hired, it's all about how good you are. And can you convince someone that they need you? Now, I want you to think about this. If you don't have a background and you need to convince someone to hire you, how important do you think your communication, sales skills, and your executive presence are? Here, my name is Mike Gibbs. I know BGP. Please hire me, Cisco. They're not going to hire me. My name's Mike. I'm an architect and I'm an expert on BGP. I can prove it to you by telling you about how it works. They're going to hire me now. So, just that is someone that's really, really, that's the difference. You got to be able to sell. So when it's your first job, make sure you learn how to sell.
Right. So let's see here. Next question. Can I work remotely from Nigeria as a cloud architect?
Yes, you can, but it's not going to be easy. I've worked remotely from Greece too. Delaware periodically works remotely from Grenada in the Caribbean all the time. But you have to be great. People recently asked me to, a little while ago, wanted me to support a client in Japan, but I'd have to be up during Japanese hours. Didn't sound too attractive to me. Now, Alonzo probably would have loved it. He loves Japan. He spent lots of time in Japan and even speaks some Japanese. But for me, it was like, no way.
Yeah, it's a hard.
So the key is you can do it, but it'd be better if you're in Lagos and near an airport.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be flying to people. You have to be great, which means you got to be out there building your brand, taking our branding work, and even getting more branding on top of it. You got to show the world why you're a specialist and an expert on something, and you got to get the world to know your names. The answer is yes, you can, but it's not going to be easy. You have to be the best. You have to show the world that no matter what, they need you. Now, you could also be like my student Benedict, nice, wonderful person from Nigeria who's now working in Canada. And when you've got a skill that's that good, you'll be offered opportunities to work in other countries. But no matter what, remote or working somewhere else, you're going to have to be good, because you're going to have to prove that you can do the job far away. And there's a lot of highly educated people in Nigeria, highly educated people in Nigeria. And we work with a tremendous number of them. You have anything to say, Chris or Alonzo, with that?
Yeah, I agree. I believe with AWS, they have a new location, I believe, in Lagos. I think you would have a great opportunity there if that's where your location is, or, you know, if you're really near there. But the thing that I like everyone to understand is that remote is great, but it's really that competency that really shines through when you're able to fly, physically be involved with the client, be involved with with asking their questions, being there with the solutions, being there with creating those relationships. That's kind of like the hands-on that you have to continue building on, even when you matriculate out of our program. So although I would say COVID has created a lot of mandatory or necessary remote opportunities, don't do the proverbial rest on your laurels when it comes to that, because you will have to get engaged at some point in time with flying and getting involved physically with people. So keep your options and your capabilities open, and you're really going to enhance your success factor in that position.
All right. Next question. Is there any barrier for the hiring manager or the company to hire someone coming from Europe to work remotely? Or as at the moment, talent for solution architect is scarce, they don't care about that?
Talent is scarce for solution architects and cloud architects because you have techies, which there's plenty of, but the ability to communicate like an executive, the business acumen, the leadership skills, the sales skills, executive presence in people that understand technology is very rare. Now, having said that, I periodically work from my home in Greece. I like it. I get to get my souvlaki without the bread these days, and all my other favorite things, and so that's not the issue per se. And there's lots of cloud architect jobs in Europe, but you have to remember you're going to have to travel. See, an engineer can work any place in the world. The architect has to be near their client. Now, if you're in Paris, you're in great shape. There's lots of jobs there. If you're in Germany, good job. There's lots of jobs there. If you're in London, which is not Europe, at least to English people, fine, you're okay. If you're in Madrid, still you're fine. But if you're sort of in the village in the middle of nowhere, like my Greek village, where you're an hour away from the Athens airport, and getting there is, an interesting way to get there, to say the least, it's going to be hard for you to travel. So because this job is so hands-on relationship, you're going to be presenting constantly. You're going to have to be shaking hands and kissing babies. You're going to have to travel if you're in Europe, unless you're in a major city like Paris. And if you are, there's plenty of global businesses headquartered out of where you're at. But if you're in Nice, in France, for example, you're going to have to travel a lot. And if you're in Athens, well, there's a little bit of stuff, not a lot. But if you're in Nepetamos like me, well, let's just face it, there's 10,000 people in that village now. because we've recently got a lot of immigrants from the rest of the world. It was 5,000 people before that. So, nobody's going to hire me to design a multi-billion-dollar cloud solution in my 10,000 person village in Greece. So keep that in the back of your mind. You need to be in a place where there's business. But Europe's pretty easy to get a job.
All right. Saeed says, for the cloud architect course, will the course be specific on security architect or cloud architect?
Well, we teach predominantly cloud architects, but we also help our students study. Because we got very deep into networking and security, and I mean very deep, because that's what my background is. We have people like Bob Welch or Delroy Beck getting cloud security architect jobs. We also have some people doing things in the networking space, but my CCIE number is 7417, and a few million people attempted the exam before me, and I was the 6,400th guy to pass it. That was when it was a hard exam, when it was 2 days before Cisco made it easy, because too many people would complain about failing. So, and I worked at Cisco and taught engineers at Cisco and WorldCom, which is now Verizon, and Riverstone, which is now Nokia. So I've been teaching engineers at all these companies forever, and architects. So for us, our students do really well. But in the beginning of the class, we ask you what you want to do. And then we help you build a career plan and the things that you need to learn. And that's validated by my team. So you can do exactly what you love. So it could either be a cloud security architect course or a generic cloud architect course. But no matter what, if you do the work and you really come to class, you should have a great job waiting for you in whatever you love. And that's the key, is you must do what you love.
Bliss says, I am a tech in fire service department, and I want to become a cloud architect. Do I need to learn the tech first and have a little experience before joining your program? Absolutely not. But I'm going to let Mike take this one because I know.
Absolutely not. So I come from a paramedic firefighter background, and I did a little bit on the fire service, so that they really called me a Band-Aid pusher, if you know what that means, from the lingo, because I spent most of my time with the ambulance. Apparently the tools in the fire truck were not my best strength. So I was pretty much relegated to ambulances. But yes, I have a fire service paramedic background. Delroy Batt, who got his first cloud security architect job with zero tech experience, was an emergency medical technician, and that was his first job. And no. You don't need to. You need to learn the tech first in our training, and then you'll be done. But then again, Coyote had no background. Yvonne Tamba had no background. Jeffrey West had no background. Jennifer had no background. Jermaine had no background. Daniel had no background. Vladimir had no background. And Noah, who got hired 2 weeks ago, was a social worker, helping people figure out how to pay their bills. And he just got his first cloud architect job too. And it happens to us every day, Bliss. You got to learn to be great at the job. And I love paramedic firefighter backgrounds or firefighter backgrounds or EMT backgrounds. Thank you for your service.
All right. Let's see here. So we're getting close to the end of our questions. If anybody's got any more questions, put them here in the chat box. We've gone over a little bit today, but we're still here for just a little bit longer until we hit some obligations. So put your put any questions that you might have here in the chat box, and we will finish them up if we're able to. So Ray the tax guy says, out of curiosity, which cloud infrastructure do you believe is better at sustained uptime and overall processes?
Ray the tax guy, let me make this very clear to you. All tech fails. And someone would literally have to be crazy to put all their eggs in a single basket. I would never advise someone to buy a single stock. And that's why everything should be multi-cloud. Now, I've been in architecture for 25 years, and in all 25 years, we said never use a single service provider. So I think they're all equally great, but all of them are going to fail. I promise you, all of them will fail. And if you put all your eggs in one basket, expect to fail. Expect to fail. All tech fails.
Yep.
A soldier carries two weapons, a primary and a backup, for a reason. Data centers have 2 power companies coming in, 2 transformers, 2 sets of generators, and UPS systems. And guess what? Even that can all fail. So if you put all your eggs in one basket, it will definitely fail. So never use a single cloud provider under any circumstances, unless, like, I've been thinking of putting a website for my beautiful cat Cindy on the internet. And that, honestly, I would put in a single cloud provider, because if somebody misses some photos of Cindy, like cleaning herself or packing herself or chasing a ball around the house, it's not critical. But if it matters, 2 clouds.
And a follow-up for that, what should techies focus on?
I don't know which career you want, Ray, the tech guy. It's the difference between financial accounting and tax accounting. So tell me what career, cloud architect, cloud engineer, or any of those other things, and then I can tell you. But until you tell us that, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know if there's any more questions. Okay, multi-cloud, that's not a career, that's not a role. Let us know what role you're interested in, right? And we can talk about what to focus on.
Yeah.
Because I can be a techie in a number of roles. So asking what a techie should focus on, we need to know what the role is before we can.
Exactly, because a network engineer that's building the plumbing to get to all the clouds will focus on multi-cloud. A cloud architect will also focus on multi-cloud, but so will a DevOps engineer that's deploying across 3 clouds. And there are 3 different careers that are about as different as an airplane pilot, a lawyer, and a physician.
Bliss says, Mike, if I join your program from Nigeria, will I be able to get I'm assuming a job as a cloud architect?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. We have plenty of people in Nigeria, Cameroon, the continent of Africa, and they're securing positions. So, Bliss, we don't see why you wouldn't be either. We just need you to come with determination, discipline, and we'll take care of the rest. So ensure that you show up for class, do your work, adjust, grow, don't quit. You'll come out the other end successful.
And wasn't it Bliss that said he got an $80,000 job?
Yes. No, the other. What was that gentleman's name?
Diggelman.
Diggelman, sorry.
Yep. So, Stefan, do you think I should get my CompTIA Plus before my AWS certs?
Stefan, I recommend you not do any CompTIA certification ever, anywhere, or anytime. I personally take them off of people's resumes every single day of the week. A CompTIA certification to a manager is like almost ready to do an intro level certification. So don't waste your time with any CompTIA certification ever. Now, if you wanted to work at, there's like in the US, there's a company called Best Buy. They're a retailer and they hire CompTIA people to work in their Geek Squad. So I wouldn't do a CompTIA certification ever. Now, there is one exception. If you want to work for the US government and security, they like the Security Plus. No other business does, but the US government does. So the CompTIA Security Plus, if you want to work as a security engineer for the US government. Otherwise, I recommend you focus on the career you desire, learn the right skills, and then get the appropriate certifications. The certification's like icing on the cake. But if you don't have the cake, you got nothing. So I recommend figure out which career you want, master the skills for those career, and then you can pass the certification in a couple of days because you'll already know how it works. But definitely, I would strongly not recommend against any CompTIA certification. And I usually have to take them off of people's resumes, and here's why. When I'm dealing with someone that's applying for a $200,000 job and they've got this on the resume, it destroys their brand and it causes brand confusion. And it's like, why is this guy that's a doctor telling me about their nursing assistant experience from 15 years ago? Who are they? So no, I would definitely not recommend getting a CompTIA certification.
All right. Let's see. We got anything else? No new questions. Let us know if you've got any questions. We're here for a few more minutes. If you've got any more questions, put them in the chat box.
Got a couple more minutes in me today because we were a little late because of the holiday. So we've got a few more minutes if you guys need, and love to help you.
So while we're at it, waiting on any questions to come in, I want to remind everybody about our 60% discount. This is the lowest price that our Cloud Architect Career Development Program will ever be. And this is with this 60% off discount, you'll be able to get our Cloud Architect Career Development Program for a one-time payment of $999 or 3 monthly payments of $346. And this will give you access to our live classes 3 times a week for an entire year. So that's roughly 150 live classes for less than $1,000 right now. But it's only available for a short time and there's only limited availability. So make sure to take advantage of that. And for those of you that have enrolled while we're on this live stream, make sure you read the email. I saw your enrollment, so make sure you read that email. The email subject line is "Welcome to the Cloud Architect Career Development Program." Read that email. So I just want to point that out to you. The link is there in the chat box. The link is in the description, so make sure you take advantage of that. All right. I see Greg realizes that his name is a bit funky. So, Greg.
I wouldn't even try.
He followed it up with "My name is Greg."
He just swiped the fingers across the keyboard and hope for the best.
Greg says, how many jobs are available?
More than there are people to fill them.
Yes.
Oh, not enough. Yeah. Oh, not enough people to fill the jobs.
Not even close.
Not enough people to fill the jobs. The problem that companies have is that there's so many job openings and so many unqualified candidates for those jobs.
Even security cloud architect, I see that he had mentioned beyond his name. But at the end of the day, there are more. When you think about people who work at a fast food chain, there's a lot of people to fill those jobs, and so the value of the money has gone down because there's more people than there are people who can do the job, as opposed to conversely, cloud architects. There's not enough people who can competently do the work. I mean, they'll talk too much about text or X, Y, and Z, which is why the value is so attractive, because they want to get the best talent, which is why the value is so high. So, yeah, to your point, there are more jobs than there are people to fill them.
Far more jobs than people to fill them. Now, there's a ton of people that have 1 million certifications that can't do anything. But there's almost nobody that's qualified. So you become qualified, you build yourself a brand, and you go in an interview. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never had more than 10% of anything that's on a job description in my entire career. And with the exception of one interview, I've been hired on every single one because it was that rare. And I'll tell you why I didn't get hired on one. I had my first job interview in New York City and lived in New Jersey, and I had no idea what New York City was going to be like at all. I thought you would just go there and get a taxi and it would take you to your place, the business. And on this day, I didn't know that it was planes, trains, and automobiles. So I left my house and missed my train. And then I got on the next train, which wasn't a 46-minute train. It was an hour and 42-minute train because I had given myself an extra hour. Got to New York City, had 21 minutes to actually get to the interview. Tried to flag down a taxi to go 3 miles and nobody would stop and pull me over. So I literally speaking ran in a suit, 3 miles in 21 minutes, which was not the easiest thing to do. Got to the place, covered in sweat, looking absolutely terrible. And they interviewed me. And the guy liked me so much. He took me home, sent me home with an IQ test and a personality test. And the recruiter said, Mike, they don't know what to do with you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, they felt you were the smartest engineer they've ever spoken to. They also felt you could do 3 people's jobs, but they said you looked really sloppy. Could you explain this? And I did. Now, I'll tell you, on every other interview I've ever been on, I got an offer. And why? Because and on most of these offers, one on Wall Street, they literally hired me on the spot. Almost every one of them hired me on the spot because they were so afraid that I would leave and get another job offer that day. So that's how rare it is. If you're really great, they'll hire you on the spot, even in today's world.
All right. So, couple of things. So the next one, I don't think we can go into too much depth, but it's 2 back-to-back questions, and I'm going to start off the response. Do I need to worry about the nuances of the cloud when it comes to cloud architecting? Ivan can't pronounce the last name, CCI 1354 Emeritus states that certain elements don't apply to one vendor compared to another. Elements, for example, may include ARP is different from one to the other. Static routing works one way compared to another. Will the designing be affected as much, if at all? I'm going to start this one off. The nuances is what it takes to become an expert.
Yes.
The nuances is what you learn over the course of 10,000 hours, which is 5 years at least. So nuances are and this is any industry, any job, anything. The nuances is what you learn as you're progressing through your career. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, and I know Ivan. So, here's the thing. A static route
this is cherry picking a quote from him, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's cherry picking, but a static route is the same on all.
Yes.
Now, it might be IP route 172.16.0.0, 255.255.255.255.0.0, 192.168.1.3 on one, and it might be IP route static and another command, but it's the same static route. There's no difference. Now, if you can't figure out how to change one command to another command, you're not going to be an architect. And here's the thing, Ken. Guess what? We don't do that anyway as architects. Now, all things have to comply to the standard. Now, if you actually become a multi-cloud architect correctly, you avoid proprietary things such as DynamoDB, Google Cloud Bigtable, or the equivalent, and you use the standard, which is Apache Cassandra, versus, say, what's the word I'm looking for? Or MongoDB versus anything proprietary. And guess what? They all work the same. And in the days where he's coming from and I'm coming from, that's why we all use OSPF and not EIGRP, because it works perfectly on Cisco versus Juniper. Now, there are some little tweaks that each manager does make, but guess what? They all have to come negotiate down to the same level when it comes to inter-vendor operability. So by the time that would even work, you're going to have 15, 20 years of experience before you even get to those minor nuances. And if you're worried about the nuances now, I can promise you, you're never going to get to where you need to be. Because if you worry about the spelling of a single word being wrong on a chart, guess what? You missed the whole point of the chart, and you're not going to get anything that matters. So you can always look for the odd exceptions, which occurs less than 1% of the time. But if you focus on the less than 1% of the time, you're going to miss the other 99%, which matters. So you can worry about what somebody like me or Ivan has done after 30 years that has a 1% difference and focus on that. But if you do, guess what? You're not going to learn all the things that matter. So it's up to you and how you want to go there. But I would worry about the big picture, because you're not, before you have at least 10,000 hours, you're not even going to know what any of those things are. And even at 10,000 hours, you're never going to get there. Now, Ken, you got a choice. You can focus on those 1% nuances if you choose to, or you can focus on leadership, sales, executive presence, and add in a couple $100,000 extra to your career. Where do you want to be? Focusing on the 1% nuances and getting nowhere, or focusing on the big value skills? That's up to you. I'd rather learn the business acumen side and have the average salary of $549,000 than worried about weird engineering idiosyncrasies. But it's up to you.
All right. So we do have a hard stop. We're gonna have to stop at 3:45, everybody. So I'm gonna get through these questions. We're probably only gonna be able to take the questions that are already in the chat box, but we'll see. So let's go. Next question. Excellent. I will sign up ASAP. Awesome. We look forward to it. What do you think about TOGAF?
What I think about certifications are the icing on the cake. I built a career taking people that were TOGAF certified. They make some kind of fancy chart following some framework. And then the CEO would say, Mike, what does this mean? And I'd say, what they're really trying to say is your business is going to run this, that, and the other thing. Worry about being the best architect in the world. Worry about solving your customer's business problem. Worry about designing high performance and highly resilient and highly secure systems. And don't worry about certifications. Worry about being great.
Right. Okay. Next question from Gwendolyn. In terms of job availability and with cloud technology nowadays, what architect type is in need? All of them.
All of them.
Infrastructure, networking, security, or something better than even generic architect. All
Everything.
of them.
All of them are needed.
Everything. There's such a shortage of qualified, competent individuals for these roles. That all of them. Now, that's not to say that it isn't good to specialize in something, but all of them are in need. All of them are in need.
Absolutely, every last one of them is need. But who's the rarest and the highest paid? The ones with the most business acumen and leadership experience. Because it's really rare to find somebody with MBA knowledge and CXO, like CEO level relatability and communication and leadership skills in an architect in the same time. That's the rarest. And those people are hired for double the salaries of everybody else. And we literally get job offers every single day without even looking for them.
Yep. Trying to, Mr. Dominic, you make reference to a question about, okay. Yeah, Mr. Dominic, ask your question in the Slack community. For sure. Here we go from Ray. Have you all considered working with the veterans community to provide these courses to veterans transitioning out?
Ray, the tax guy. We've been in multiple publications for our Helping Our Heroes Get Hired program. And yes, we've been working with the veterans community for a long time. Veterans not only have the ability to take directions, they have excellent mental toughness and are very good at what they do. We have a special program for veterans, and all they have to do is provide a DD-214 if they're a veteran, and they get a substantial discount on our training. And if they do, and they're a veteran, all they have to do is send an email to info@gocloudcareers.net. My team will pop it in the chat box, and we've got a lot of work, and we've been winning awards. We're considered the #1 training program for veterans. I forget we were published in LA Weekly recently because of all the work we've done for the veteran community.
Sorry, what did you say I was posting in the chat box? I was reading other posts.
For veterans to send an email to info@gocloudcareers.net. And there we go. Alonzo added the link for one of the people where we were posted so much for veterans. It's a lot of work we do.
All right. Okie dokie. All right. Well, let us know if you've got any more questions, everybody. We got just a few minutes left.
7 minutes left, so let's do that.
While waiting on questions, I just want to remind everybody about our webinar on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The link will be there in the description and in the chat box. And on this webinar, you can join Mike, Alonzo, and myself, and we'll talk about what hiring managers actually want, what cloud architects actually do, what you need to actually learn to become a cloud architect, how to deal with HR and the job descriptions, all the things that you really need to know to become a cloud architect and get that first cloud architect job. And of course, we'll be able to answer your questions directly in a more intimate setting than we are here. So make sure to join us. And again, as a reminder, we do have our discount going on, the 60% discount on our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program. This is available for a short period for limited availability. Take advantage of it before the opportunity is gone. You don't want to miss out on that. So make sure you join the webinar and take advantage of that discount. Don't waste any time. Every day that you delay is a potential day of lost earnings of up to $800. So we want to help you reach your goal as quickly as possible so that you can change your life and change your family's life. So let's see, we got a question from Varun. Okay, most of the principal solution architects in my company has a lot of hands-on experience and they design the actual system. But you recommend a combination of both soft skills plus cloud. How I will withstand with those individuals even after completing your course? That's a very specific question to a very specific organization.
That's culture related.
That's culture related to your company. Not sure how well we can answer that.
And
given the specificity without knowing the company, the culture, the everything about it, that's we're not able to give too specific of a response to that. I don't believe, Mike.
No, but I was a principal architect within 2 years. And what was different than me than everybody else? A couple of things. Most of them focused on learning a lot of stuff, and that's what they focused theirs on. And I was laser focused on learning just one skill and being at the master of it. But I also focused on the soft skills, the leadership skills, and the executive presence. And here's why. When you want to sell yourself into a job where they need 10 years experience, and you don't have 10 years experience, you got to be the best sales rep in the world.
Yep.
And, you know, you can have 2 cars, brand new Mercedes, brand new. One, you can scuff up the paint and give it a ton of scratches on it, but it drives perfectly and it has 0 miles on it. But you scratched every part of that car up and spray painted it with graffiti when you were done. And you have the other one and you had a high grade of wax put on it. One car's going to sell for twice as much as the other, and it's going to sell faster. Now, me, I'm going to try to get the one at half off and get a paint job. But, you know.
And I also want to point out, this goes back to what I was talking about, but in a different aspect when I was talking about the imposter syndrome. This isn't imposter syndrome by any means, but what I talked about at that time was realistic expectations. If you've got people that are already working as principal architects and senior architects and have built this body of knowledge and body of competency in the role over the course of even a year, let alone 10 years, 5 years, it's not realistic that you're going to have that same accumulated body of experience and knowledge and nuance like we spoke about earlier. But you will have the capability to perform the job. But you won't have inherently, you can't compare yourself. You can't try to compare yourself tit for tat, line item by line item, to people that have been working as principal architects. That's not something that you should do. You shouldn't attempt to compare yourself. Like, I should not attempt to compare myself to Mike. As it relates to level of technical competency and accumulated body of knowledge. That's just not something that I should do. Now, should I compare him with my capability to perform? Sure, by all means, all day long. I can compare against my capability to perform, but not the accumulated body of knowledge and the accumulated competency. I think that's to get to the heart of what you're asking. How you said,
and I think he missed the heart of the next part of it.
Well, the Azure solution architect.
No, okay. So let me explain it. So first, I can't do marketing the way Alonzo can with 30 years experience. That's why Alonzo helps me. And I can't do operations the way you can, Chris.
Right.
But what many people that are coming from the tech background fail to understand, I don't care what the principal engineers think of me. They don't hire me. And, you know, when I go sell a product in $1 billion architecture, I don't care at all what the techies think. You know why I don't care? I bring in an engineer to go babble to them and talk about them at their level. And you know what I do? I talk to the CEO. The CEO makes the decision. And when I wanted to be a principal architect, and I didn't have more than 2 years experience, I was interviewing with the VP. He was the one that said yes. Sure, along the way, there was some interview with the principal architects, and I had to prove that I was competency, and they worked really hard to try and show that I wasn't. And I proved that there was in front of the VP, the senior VP, and the senior director. They make the hiring decisions. So the key is the way an architect doesn't worry about the engineers, they worry about the CEO. I don't care what they think. I care about what the hiring manager thinks. Once I'm hired, I can prove it to all of them how great I am. And as long as they can't shut me down on the interview, it's irrelevant to me. I sell to the higher ups. So that's really the key. You earn your trust. Nobody's going to ever believe you're good enough. You earn your trust. And you sell yourself to the decision makers. I don't care what the rest of the architects on the team think, as long as I can sell myself to the decision maker to say yes. And believe me, I've actually gotten a job with a major tech company, and all the people on the tech company were, literally speaking, wanted somebody internal, but the hiring manager hired me anyway. And then the rest of the people on the tech team were like, oh, I really love this guy, Mike. He's really good. And I got promoted and out of that team long before any of them. So the key is sell to your very important top officer. That's the secret. That's who you have to impress. I know we all have to end at 3:45 today. I just wanted to make sure that's not your focus. Your focus is on the person that's going to hire you, whatever he or she is, and impressing their boss and their boss, their boss's boss. That's the goal.
All right. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap up. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Alonzo and Mike, thank you for being here with me to answer all the questions. Again, this Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, make sure to register for How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We will talk about all of it with you. We will answer all of your questions. You can come off mute and ask us questions. It'll be a little bit different than here on YouTube. So we look forward to having you. And don't hesitate. Take advantage of the 60% off discount that we have going on now for a short time. Limited availability. You don't want to miss out. Take advantage of that now. And then, of course, make sure you're following Mike and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. You don't want to miss anything. Again, thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a great day. Bye, everybody.